Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
Yo, it's your boy, the odd guy himself, Malik King Scott.
Hi, I'm Charlie Edwards.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 30 of the BoxHard Podcast. Really climbing through these shows now. I'm your host, as always, Joey Coastman. I'm joined, as always, by Ayaz Sumra. Ayaz, how you doing?
I'm good, Joey. How are you?
Very good, very good. We're going to get straight into part one. Part one, if you've joined us before, is the review part where we talk about the fights that happened last week. We're going to start over in Italy now. This was for the vacant EBU European welterweight title. Leonard Bundu, of course, we'll know him for fighting Frankie Gavin and Keith Thurman, etc., etc. Tough guy. A little bit old, but a tough guy. Leonard Bundu managed to get the TKO in round 9 over his opponent, Jussi Kaluva, who had a record of 19-2 with the one draw going into this fight. Leonard Bundu, as I said, got the victory. His new record now 33 wins, 1 loss and 2 draws. His opponent, Kavulu, was down twice in the 8th round, and it was stopped in the 9th. We're now going to go over to the Philippines. Top of the bill over there, Nonito Donaire, of course, he defended his WBO World Super Bantamweight title against Zasult Bedak. Nonito Donaire picked up the TKO in round 3. Bedak was down twice in round 2 and once in round 3. He actually looked pretty explosive, Donaire. He was almost the Donaire of old. He sort of, he'd done a little bit of a throwback in this fight. He looked really good whilst it lasted. As I said, it only went to 3 rounds. Mark Magsayo was also on the bill. He was fighting Chris Avalos for the vacant WBO International Featherweight title. It was a bit of an eventful fight, this one, if you can catch it on YouTube or something. Mark Magsayo nonetheless picked up the win. He's still unbeaten, 14-0 now, Mark Magsayo, and we'll see him hopefully in some big clashes in the near future. And that's really it for the other sort of cards. Of course, we mentioned the one in Philippines. We mentioned the one over in Italy. We're now going to go over to California, USA, where the real fights took place. We're going to start with Roman Gonzalez, considered one of the best pound-for-pound boxers in the world today. He faced McWilliams Arroyo, who had a record of 16-2. Of course, Roman Gonzalez 44-0 going into this fight. He's now 45-0, and he successfully defended his WBC World Flyweight title. Ayaz, of course, I know that you rank this guy really highly. I know you rate him a lot, Roman Gonzalez. He pretty much went out there and showed what he's all about. To be honest, I think McWilliams Arroyo put a good account of himself in. But Roman Gonzalez just simply too good, to be totally honest. So, as I say, Roman Gonzalez going straight up with his 45-0 at the moment. Hopefully we'll see him, push on to Mayweather's 49-0. But the time he gets round to it, Mayweather might be at 50-0. Who knows what's going to happen? Never say never. We're going to go over to the main event on this card now, of course. Top of the bill, Gennady Golovkin, 34-0 with 31 knockouts versus Dominic Wade, 18-0 with 12 knockouts. This, of course, was for Gennady Golovkin's WBO Super World Middleweight title, IBF World Middleweight title, Interim WBC World Middleweight title, and the IBO World Middleweight title. Gennady Golovkin, of course, he's an absolute monster, as we said last week. Now, Dominic Wade was knocked down once in the first round and twice in the second round. Of course, it was literally within a few seconds of the bell in the first round, Golovkin knocked him down. It was one of those punches I don't think Dominic Wade really saw coming. It wasn't really like, I know Golovkin hits so hard that if you see a punch coming, sometimes you still go down. You just can't ship it. You can't ride it or anything like that. And sometimes you find yourself on the canvas. But in this case, I think it was a punch that he didn't see coming. A good little combo by Golovkin that the finishing punch was the one that dropped him. A good performance by Golovkin in the first round. As I say, Dominic Wade was sort of saved by the bell. As soon as he got up and the referee was counting, it was the end of the round. So he went back to his corner. He tried his best to recuperate in that minute between rounds. But Golovkin came out in round 2, all patient again. He found the knockdown, And in the end, he put him down again. And when he put him down that second time, he got up on the second time that he was knocked down. And the referee was saying, "Do you want to continue? Do you want to continue?" Dominic Wade was saying yes, just under his breath, basically. The referee was saying, "What? Say it again. What did you just say? Do you want to continue?" Dominic Wade was saying yes, but he was, you could see he didn't want to say no. That's all. He just did not want to say no. So he showed a lot of heart, Dominic Wade, but ultimately he was put down again within about 10 or 15 seconds to the second knockdown in round 2. So when he was down for that third time, the referee saw enough on that one, and that was all she wrote. Gennady Golovkin, of course, 35-0 now with 32 knockouts, and hopefully his next fight will be against the winner of Khan Canelo. I know that straight after the fight they interviewed Golovkin, and Golovkin said, "I want my belt. I need my belt." So Golovkin, of course, will be looking for that fight. And I believe it's been announced this week that Tom Loeffler has said, he's come out and said that they will not be taking any step-aside money for any further defences of Canelo's belt, providing he gets through Khan, by the way, which is a really tough test. So yeah, Golovkin, I don't think they're going to be taking any step-aside money. He wants that fight with Canelo, and it'd be interesting to see if that fight does come off. Firstly, Ayaz, what did you think about Golovkin's performance? Of course, we also saw Golovkin in that second round seem to put his gloves down and let Dominic Wade tee off on him. About 5 or 6 punches landed, and Golovkin just walked through him after that and broke his heart, really, to be honest. It was a bit demonic, really. Not often, he actually let him land a few punches to sort of get his confidence up, but he didn't realise he let him do it, and then he just absolutely battered him.
I'll tell you one thing, yeah. Golovkin's performance, it's another Golovkin performance. He's an animal in the ring. What can I say? A lot of people are saying that it's a mismatch, but unfortunately, it was his mandatory challenger. And as you were saying, right, yeah, even in the second round, when Golovkin put his hand down, yeah, and Wade gave him that 3 combination punch, it didn't even affect Golovkin. It didn't affect Golovkin a bit. Obviously, now that he's beaten Dominic Wade, right, yeah, it's all about now him fighting Canelo, if that fight is actually going to happen. But the thing is Canelo gonna actually step in and fight a dangerous opponent such as Golovkin, or is he gonna fight someone else like a Liam Smith?
We'll have to wait and see. As I said, if he does get through Khan, Golovkin and that, his team, Tom Loeffler, etc., they're saying they're not going to take no step aside money. Money talks, so we'll have to see what happens there. And of course, he's got a lot of people picking Khan to beat Canelo. That's going to be a tough fight in itself. How do you see, providing Canelo gets through Khan, which we both hope doesn't happen, by the way, if he does end up beating Khan Canelo, who do you see winning in a fight between Canelo and Golovkin, and by what way? What's the outcome? Is it points? Is it knockout? What do you think, Ayaz?
If Canelo and Golovkin fought, right, yeah, I can see going to points. I can't see Canelo getting knocked out for some reason. I don't know why. Thing is, right, the last time we saw Golovkin win on points was the 5th of April 2008 when he beat Canadian's Ian Garner. That fight, right, Canelo versus Golovkin, I don't think it's going to go to a knockout. I reckon it'll go to points.
Yeah, as you said, I think it's a 22 knockout streak now for Golovkin. As you say, it spans all the way back to 2008. So every fight he's in ends in a knockout. Of course, he gets the knockout every time. He's unbeaten, but it will be a good fight. To be totally honest, I don't know. I think if Khan was to win this fight and get through Canelo, which we hope happens, I don't think he's going to hang around at 160. I think he'll probably vacate the title. He's proved a point, and he'll come down, and then perhaps, we'll see him in there with, maybe Mayweather might think that he's decided to pay his dues. He might think, yeah, Amir Khan's, he beat Canelo in better fashion than I did, or something like that. Maybe he deserves a fight, or you never know, he might even fight someone like, the winner of Porter and Furman, which I think is a bit of a step backwards. He might fight Kell Brook. But I personally wouldn't want to see Khan up there against Golovkin, in my opinion, Ayaz. What do you think about that fight?
If Khan beats Canelo, right, what I can see happening, right, yeah, is him vacating that belt. Obviously, Golovkin's mandatory, so he's going to go for that belt. And, right, remember this, that Khan is still mandatory for Danny Garcia's WBC belt. So he's going to go for that WBC belt and obviously avenge that loss.
Yeah, of course. That's another fight, one that I just forgot to mention. And that's one that he's been talking all about this week, apparently, the Danny Garcia rematch. So, yeah, I'm sure he'll go back down to 147 because he's, we've seen him down at the lower weights. He's moved up to 147, in the last 2 years or so. He's now going up to the highest he's ever fought at, which is 155. This fight's going to be at a catch weight. For him to move up to 160 and fight Golovkin, when Golovkin won't come down from 160 at all. So he'll have to put on even more weight. A lot of people are not too sure about him putting on as much weight as what he's putting on to get to the 155 limit. To pile on another 5 pounds, I'm not sure that would be a good move. I'm not sure that his advisors would let him do that either, to be totally honest. But yeah, we're going to leave that there. That's really it for the review inside of the show. We're now going to bring on our first guest. Okay, now it's time for our first guest on this week's show. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome, fighting in a huge fight against Gerald Washington, undefeated American prospect over, of course, in America. It's Eddie Chambers. Eddie, welcome to the show.
Hey, my man, what's going on with you?
Very good, very good. You know that obviously we've got the intro. On the intro of this show, we've got you on there. As always, we've got Malik Scott on there. We've got Mikey Garcia. We've got a prospect from the UK also on there. And just recently, Michael Buffer's also on the intro now. So he's on the intro as well, every show.
Wow, that's nice. Forget me, forget everybody else. Michael Buffer, he's the real that should be the introduction all the time, you know what I mean?
Every show, it starts with Buffer, then it goes on to Mikey Garcia, then it goes on to Malik, and then it goes on to this prospect from the UK, another friend of mine. Then you're the last one. You say, welcome to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, and then it starts.
Yeah, there you go. That's you got to say the best for last, right?
That's it. I ain't lying to you. That's it. But yeah, obviously you're fighting on Saturday. Finally, you've got a big fight. You've been chasing a big fight for a couple of years now. All the hate on Twitter, all the armchair boxers that tweet you, this is your chance to shut them up and your chance to make a statement in the heavyweight division.
Right. Well, there's no question about that. I mean, obviously, not a lot of people think I have much left or anything whatsoever. And not only just that, they're thinking that not only, was I has been, but maybe even some of them think I never was. So, this is my opportunity to shine, to get back into the public eye, especially here in the States where guys haven't seen me for, maybe 2 or 3 years now. And, do some good for myself and family and make my mark once again in the heavyweight division.
Of course, you're a down-to-earth guy. There's been times in your career in the last couple of years where you felt like calling it a day, really. Of course, you've got this fight that you've been wanting. You've got a big fight here. Obviously, you have to treat it almost like it's a world title fight because anyhow that you didn't end up coming out with a W. I don't know what your views are. I don't really want to talk about that ever happening. I don't really want to put that in your head. But if that were to happen, if the worst were to happen, I mean, would you walk away from it or would you carry on?
Well, I mean, I'm a realistic guy, and these questions are stuff that need to be asked, and you got to be prepared as a fighter. And as I would say to all the young fighters, you got to be prepared as a human being, more than just an athlete, of what to do when your career is over. When you don't have the opportunity to, just train and fight for a living, you have to have something that you can kind of, fall back on, so to speak. Everybody says that, and it's a cliche to a degree because, everybody talks about having something to fall back on, but lots of athletes don't, and they do not have anything to really move back into or go back into, and they don't have a real support system other than that of those guys who they're dealing with in the sports world. So, I think this is a good question, a realistic question, and the thing is, if it happened, I would have to, obviously come back and sit down with my people and, really discuss the future. And honestly, in my opinion, I mean, what's the point? I couldn't beat this guy. He's a big 6'6" athletic guy. Don't get me wrong, and he has ability, and he can do certain things. And he, obviously, he could have a good future, even though he's a bit older himself, but hasn't taken a punishment. So still a young heavyweight in that regard. But if I couldn't win, then then who else am I going to beat? I mean, most of the guys are like that in the heavyweight division. So at that point, it's like, what's the point in continuing to beat a dead horse? You know what I'm saying? Just go on ahead and try to do something else. I'm not super old. I'm not saying I'm going to try to be another athlete in another sport because that's not going to happen either. But what I would be really interested in is finally doing some things that I want to do aside from the sports. You know what I mean? trying to make my mark in another way. Maybe business. I got a good support system behind me, and I will definitely work with them and do some things with them, and hopefully iron out some things as maybe a trainer, not necessarily a boxing trainer to like a top level fighter, but just getting to learning them to fight, to defend themselves, and also to maybe get them involved and interested in the sport and get them some discipline, as well as adults who just want to be in shape and want to just learn the art of boxing.
Yeah, we don't want to think about that too much, though, at the same time.
No. I mean, but at the end of the day, Joey, it's like this. You gotta be prepared. Hope for the best, but you gotta prepare for the worst. And that's and in this sport, that is what I've been faced with time and time again. There's been fights where I got in there and I felt like I did more than enough to win and didn't get the decision. And if that's the case in this one and in any other fight that I have in the future, you know what I mean? It's just it's like single elimination for me at this point. I can't go out here and put my life after boxing, or my life, so to speak, on hold for something that's just not going to happen. Right now it looks great. Things look bright for me. I have an opportunity to fight someone who's a named guy who I will get respect for beating, and all that good stuff because he's a real prospect, a real live athlete here. So that part looks great. However, if things don't go my way, I'm still putting other things that I could be, really putting effort into and maybe making a good living on hold for, to be quite honest, in a lot of regards, maybe chump change. You know what I'm saying? And stuff that, maybe I'll be on TV or maybe not, but maybe I'll be sought after by a few different people and they'll say, oh my God, he's, Eddie Chambers. But at the end of the day, that's not feeding me. That's not feeding my family. And I have to think about that first, first and foremost going down the stretch here.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, of course, over in the UK on the same night as you, your brother from another mother, so to speak. Of course, he'll be fighting a few hours before you, but Hughie Fury, he fights Fred Cassie as well on the same night as you.
Yeah. That's I'm never really worried about Hughie in a fight, to be honest. I mean, I've been training with him. I spent a lot of time with him and training with him. He's a great kid and everything. Has a good attitude, great temperament, but when it comes to getting in that ring, I'm not worried about him swapping punches with anybody. I know he has world-class ability. He has slickness like me, like they call him white chocolate. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, he just happens to be 6'6", 6'5", and with that height and reach and things like that, it gives him a different dimension than even I had. You know what I mean? That I wish I had. And with the coordination and the energy that he brings to the table when it comes to a professional fight, and the fact that he really enjoys it, he's got a great foundation as a fighter, and of course his father, who loves the sport more than just as much as anybody I've ever met, and really enjoys it. Doesn't need it to be sufficient, but he definitely loves it. It puts his heart and soul into it. I think with him, his father, Hughie, his father, and then obviously Tyson and the rest of the guys there supporting him. Look, can't go wrong with that team.
Obviously, since we last spoke, Joshua challenged for the IBF World title, the title that was, basically robbed off of Tyson Fury. Charles Martin unsuccessfully defended it, and he got knocked out in the second round. What was your thoughts on that fight?
Well, I mean, honestly, I looked at Charles Martin in the fight and how he lost it. It wasn't so much that he lost. I mean, anything can happen. And to be fair, even the way he lost, it wasn't, a lot of people are going to criticize it. Oh, he's the worst heavyweight champion. But but there's been other guys that do something similar to that. But it was just that he got caught with the same punch in the same situation twice. You know what I mean? And that, of all things, is what bothered me. I mean, when you're heavyweight champion of the world, when you're champion of anything, and don't get me wrong, some guys have a certain style for you, and they make it really difficult for you to be able to win just because of their style and the way they operate. It makes it really difficult. But when you go and you almost fall for the exact same thing twice in a row as a champion, as someone who's put X amount of hours of work into this, it just really makes you question how he got there in the first place. However, I give him all the respect. I think he got there because, he's been involved, he's been training, he's, he did what he had to do to get there. It could have been nerves, it could have been just a mistake. But it just makes you shake your head a little bit as a professional. And when that kind of thing happens, it's like, man. You know what I mean? Why? How did you let that happen again? After you just got dropped with the same shot. Maybe he wasn't all the way there. Maybe he was still a little loopy after the first shot. But at the same time, your reflexes, your work, the things you put in, the hours you put in, and the time you put in, most guys, if you get with one shot, unless you're just that kind of a fighter where you come forward head first, you know what I mean? But if you're like a Floyd Mayweather or somebody like that, or not saying that everybody's going to be that gifted, but if you put that amount of work into it, you're not going to get with the same shot twice. You know what I mean? And especially not right after, right back to back. And that was the only thing about that. I mean, anybody can get clipped and knocked out in the first round, second round, anything can happen. But it was just the fact that it was the same shot, the same way, almost like it was a replay of the first one, if you know what I'm saying. And that's the only thing that bothered me in the whole situation, to be honest.
Yeah, of course. And now, of course, he's defending his title on the 25th of June. A lot of names were thrown into the hat, the likes of Stavern, Eric Molina, Malik Scott was mentioned a little bit, but of course, Dominic Breazeale ended up getting the shot. What do you think about that fight? Has Dominic Breazeale got any chance against Joshua in a realistic world?
I mean, hey, look, any heavyweight, especially heavyweights, has a puncher's chance. He's a big guy. He's an Olympian. He's done well for himself to get to this point. He has a couple guys on his resume that are world-class, so to speak, kind of world-class. One definitely world-class. So, with that, I mean, you want to give everybody a chance, especially somebody, that has decent credentials, But when you look at Anthony Joshua and the progress he's made, and then you look at the progress Breazeale has made, and, I would have to obviously favor Joshua without a question. I would say he has a puncher's chance, Breazeale, but he cannot fight the way he's fought in recent history. He can't, because if he does, it's not going to be much better than what Martin did, to be honest. So he's going to have to definitely be at his best on his A game and making sure he's not making no same, amateurish type mistakes. If he does that, then he'll be fine. But he'll be at least competitive at certain points.
We hope so. Now, of course, the rematch has been confirmed now for the 9th of July. Last time round it was called Klitschko Fury. Now it's Fury Klitschko. Will you be making the trip for that fight? And also, what are we going to see in that fight, in your opinion?
Well, I would definitely love to make the trip. That's family right there. I want to make sure that they do well. If not, I'll definitely be watching that thing in front of the tube like I was for the last one, cheering, in a quiet way. That's just my way. Like it's me in there. You know what I'm saying? Pushing forward like it's me. So, but without a question, I feel like the same thing's going to happen. Very similar to the first time. Probably a little bit more fire. I think Klitschko's going to come in a little bit, obviously a lot stronger. He's going to put in a lot of effort, and now he's prepared for a different style. But just like I've said, a number of times, it's hard to, change for a zebra. If he's going to come in one day and just say, well, you know what, I'm going to be a tiger today. You know what I mean? Or I'm going to be a Dalmatian today. It's not going to happen just like that. It's going to take years and years and years of evolution and maybe even in reverse in some ways. And for Klitschko to all of a sudden just change his style overnight, or not even, over a period of a few months to deal with the style of Tyson Fury, I just don't know if he's able to do that. And even if he is able to do that, then there's an adjustment period for Tyson. And then what Tyson is going to do is obviously adjust. He's going to fight him in a different way, and I've seen him do it. So it's really hard for me to believe that Vladimir is going to be able to come back and win this fight. However, this is boxing, and, he's one of the greater champions in our history. So you have to give him at least a chance. But I just feel, honestly, not just being biased, but I really believe that Tyson will take care of this just as he did the first time.
And now a fight I wasn't really going to ask you about. I'm not sure if you've been kept up to date, but basically David Haye's fighting a guy that no one's really heard of. He's fighting a guy who I believe's got about 29 wins with about 27 knockouts, something like that. He's got like the second highest knockout streak or win streak in the heavyweight division, apart from Deontay Wilder. On the undercard of that fight, Shannon Briggs is supposed to be fighting. He's gone back to America now to train, and he's going to fight on that undercard. And providing they both win, they will be facing off sometime later in the year, I believe. I mean, what's your thoughts on that fight, Shannon Briggs and David Haye?
That's honestly a 5-round fight, in my opinion, 5 to 6 round fight. Because they're both huge punchers. I can tell you from experience with Shannon, he's a huge puncher, and he has underrated ability that people don't really, they see him for the "let's go champ" type stuff and all that, and he's a bit up in age, but still, that crack doesn't leave you aside. Believe me, he can still punch. So that's there. However, obviously, we know we're talking about David Haye, and David Haye has world-class ability. He's been a champion, different times, and he's more of this era and obviously a bit fresher than Shen. However, everybody has a chance, and I think that right there, if that ends in a decision, I will be so surprised. Obviously, I'm going to lean toward Haye. I would like to see Shannon win. Shannon is great for boxing. I mean, he's just a different kind of Tyson Fury. You know what I mean? These guys have bring great excitement to the division, and we definitely need it, to be quite honest. And I think those kind of guys definitely bring excitement to it. I mean, David Haye has his own way of doing things, and he's a lot of people follow him as well. But I mean, Shannon, I think, just bring a crazy different aspect to boxing and kind of take you back a little bit. So when guys would show up at your training camp, like Ali style type stuff, you know what I mean? I think that would be great too. I mean, like I said, he's a little long in the tooth, so he's not going to have a super long career going forward, but I think the amount of time that he is around would be, it'll be interesting.
And now the last question I want to ask you, just because you touched on Shannon Briggs' power, just give me one name. Who is, out of all the people that you've sparred, who would you say hits the hardest?
And this is and believe me, I've been in there with some punchers, but I would have to say he was that guy. And the thing was, I never was buzzed by the shots, but they didn't land clean, and I felt them through guard. That dude cracked. You know what I mean? I don't know what it was, but and I think he has a certain level of speed too that is really underrated. He has pretty good speed along with the power, which makes the delivery and is a certain sharpness with it too. And, I mean, this was back some years back, but that man can punch. And, I mean, I've been in there with the likes of Hassan Rahman, some of these guys you're probably not going to remember, the names of, obviously, know the names of, but, Terrence Lewis, Gerald Nobles, I'm trying to think of all the guys, even Monty Barrett, who has a pretty good reputation as a puncher himself. If you stand there and take a few of his shots, believe me, he can punch too. And, I mean, I'm probably forgetting some of the main guys. I've been in with Klitschko, obviously. Samuel Peter. They those were fights. So, I mean, you got to say, if somebody like that, and I know, and his power is what I remember the most. It was, and it's funny, there's another guy who was a cruiserweight some years back who never even got really, really, really serious. That kid could punch. I remember him from the amateur. And he just had something to do with a natural thing in him. He just hits you, and you feel that shit to your bones. And, I mean, he could punch, too. So, between them two, those guys could really punch. So, and believe me, those are things you won't forget. And believe me, I don't take punches. So, imagine, if I know they can punch, they must have been hitting me on my arms and, maybe got a shot here and there to land. But I felt them. And I'm telling you, those guys can punch.
All right. Now, just before I let you go, of course, I'm going to sign you out the show anyway. But is there anything else that you wanted to say at all?
Just continue supporting the sport of boxing. I mean, there's a lot of effort that's put into this, and guys like myself sometimes don't even get the credit we necessarily believe that we deserve. And I'm not going to cry about it. I'm not the mad boxer, kind of like the mad rapper back in the day. I'm just going to say, just support it. Try to watch as much as you can and see all of the guys who may not have had an opportunity to have been put out there as much. And you'll see, I think that once you really become a real fan of the sport, a real student of the game, you'll see the struggle, and you'll see what a lot of these guys go through. A lot of these older athletes who've been through a meat grinder had to go through. And even if you can, go into a gym, train a little bit, watch the sparring. Get yourself involved in a little sparring. Then you'll have a much better respect for what we do, and it won't be so eager to criticize. You know what I'm saying? But to all those who do support, keep it up, man. Hopefully I can do some things in these next few months and maybe next couple of years that will make you guys truly proud and happy to be a part of the Team Chambers team here.
Absolutely. Now, of course, you already know, I wish you the absolute best of luck on Saturday. It was my birthday yesterday. The only present I want from you is a win on Saturday, Eddie. You need to do this for yourself, for me, for everyone. I'm not biased, you know what I mean? I'm not, well, I am biased. I'm going to be biased. I've had him on the show before. I've had Gerald Washington on the show before. I thought he was a really nice guy. When I found out you were fighting, that was it. I've just turned. I don't like him no more. I'm saying that live on the show.
I'm sure he understands. You know what I mean? There's a little bit of biasness here, but that's what happens. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, you got your picks. Everybody has this is a business here, and you know what I mean. But but even then, you still have your team, and you know that you've been a part of Team Chambers, so that's just the way it is.
Yes, those wrap them hands up. Those two hands wrapped up, and my presents wrapped up, and beat him with them.
Look, I'm gonna do everything I can, man, and you know what I mean. I want to definitely give you that present, man. And by the way, happy birthday again.
Thank you once again. Eddie Chambers, thanks for joining us this week. We'll speak again soon.
Yes, sir. Amen.
Okay, now it's time for part two. This part of the show, of course, is the preview side of the show where we preview the fights coming up this week. We're going to start over in York Hall. Louis Adolphe fights his opponent yet to be announced, but of course a prospect being looked after by Jimmy Mack and those guys. He looks to move to 5-0. He's in a 6-rounder down at welterweight. Also on the bill, Kirk Garvey, another prospect, 3-0 at the moment. He looks to move, of course, to 4-0, and he is fighting at light heavyweight. Again, his opponent yet to be announced. Both those fights taking place down at the York Hall. We're going to go over to New Jersey now, and this fight's also on the Friday. Top of the bill, Anthony Dirrell. He faces Caleb Truax. Now, Anthony Dirrell, of course, has a record of 28 wins, 1 loss and 1 draw. Caleb Truax, 26 wins, 2 losses, 2 draws. This is only a 10-rounder. Of course, it's up at super middle, so this should be a decent fight. I want to see Anthony Dirrell back out again. And also on the bill, his brother, of course, coming off of that loss to James DeGale, Andre Dirrell. He has a record of 24 wins and 2 losses. He faces Blake Caparello. This really will be a good fight. This is up at super middleweight, of course. And Blake Caparello has a record of 22 wins, 1 loss and 1 draw. So that should be a tough test, to be totally honest. That would be a good fight for Andre Dirrell and Blake Caparello. I'm not sure who the favourite is in that fight. Both good fighters. Also on that bill, if you haven't heard of him, you will do soon. And you really have to pay attention to this guy. Super bantamweight prospect Jonathan Guzman. He has a record at the moment of 20-0. Okay, 20 wins. All 20 wins by knockout. This is a man that we've got to keep our eyes peeled on. Of course, he's campaigning at super bantamweight. Jonathan Guzman will be hot on the heels of guys like Scott Quigg, Rigondo, Leo Santa Cruz, and all the other guys. And of course, Carl Frampton, the IBF champ. Talking of Carl Frampton, I forgot to do the news earlier, Ayaz. We've got a bit of news regarding Carl Frampton. Give us the news this week.
Carl Frampton will move up a weight division to fight Leo Santa Cruz for the WBA featherweight title in New York this summer.
A good fight, one that we've been hearing about for a long time. You know, Carl Frampton's been calling out Santa Cruz. Santa Cruz has been calling out Carl Frampton. It's good to finally see it take place this summer.
George Gross will take on domestic rival Martin Murray at the O2 Arena on June 25th. On that same night, headlining that bill, Anthony Joshua will defend his IBF heavyweight championship against American heavyweight Dominic Brazil.
Yeah, two good fights there. Of course, we're going to start with the George Groves against Martin Murray fight. Both guys have been in there at the top level and have both tried for world titles and fallen short. Martin Murray's been very unlucky on a few occasions, to be honest, and so has George Groves. So both guys, this is a really good domestic clash. Of course, it's also an eliminator for the WBA super middleweight title. So hopefully, I'm not sure, I don't think it's a final eliminator. I think it's just an eliminator. So hopefully they'll be chasing, the winner will be chasing the champion at the moment, which under strange circumstances ended up being Felix Sturm. He, of course, lost that fight, but managed to get the win in some sort of crazy judge fantasy land. But yeah, of course, the champion is actually Felix Sturm. And Felix Sturm, of course, the weakest champion out of the 168 division, in everybody's opinion, to be totally honest. And also, of course, Anthony Joshua, he defends his IBF title, as you said. He faces Dominic Breazeale. Dominic Breazeale, a decent fighter. Of course, Anthony Joshua, 16-0 with 16 knockouts. Dominic Breazeale, 17-0 with 15 knockouts. Both guys undefeated. Again, somebody's O has got to go. This is the fourth undefeated fighter that Anthony Joshua's faced in a row now. There were a few names in the hat, of course. Bermain Stavern, Eric Molina, both guys I've spoken to this week. Bermain Stavern actually sent me a message just yesterday. I was talking to him on Twitter. He sent me a DM just pretty much saying that, he didn't end up getting the fight. Good luck to Dominic Breazeale. And in Bermain Stavern's words, I said, what's been going on? He said he's been working. He was waiting on Joshua since they called us, but he punked out. That was the words of Bermain Stavern. So, a few names were in the hat, but it ended up being Dominic Breazeale. A lot of people were not too happy with that. A lot of people are happy with that. It's kind of mixed reactions, to be totally honest. Both guys, as I said, has a combined record of 33-0 with 31 knockouts. So I'm sure whoever's going to win this fight is going to end in a knockout victory. Okay, that's it for the two fights you just mentioned in that bit of news. Ayaz, is there any other bits of news?
David Price expects to make his long-awaited comeback on the undercard of Tony Bellew versus Ilunga Makabu.
Ilunga Makabu, yeah, that's right, of course. I think that fight's going to be happening at Goodison Park, maybe. I'm not sure if it's been confirmed yet. I know that's where they wanted it to be. I'm not sure if it's going to be there or not. But yeah, David Price will be back in the ring. I'm looking forward to see what he's like now. Of course, he's found a new trainer in Dave Caldwell. It'd be good to see him out again. So yeah, I'm excited for that one. Is there any more news, Ayaz?
No, that's it.
Okay, excellent. We'll carry on with a preview part of the show. We kind of just jumped back into the news bit because I literally forgot about doing it at the end of part one as we usually do. So apologies for that one. We just finished off with Anthony Durrell and Andre Durrell, and we talked about the 20-0 with 20 knockouts prospect in the super bantamweight division, Jonathan Guzman. We're now going to go straight over to Saturday. All those fights that we mentioned are taking place on the Friday. We're now going to go over to the Saturday. On Saturday, we see return to the ring off of his ban for an illegal substance, Kid Galahad of 18-0 going into this fight. His opponent yet to be announced. It's not going to be anybody who's going to be any kind of world beater or anything like that. It's a 6-rounder, literally just to get Kid Galahad back in the mix. It's happening over in Lancashire in Wigan at the DW Stadium. It's good to see Kid Galahad get back in the ring, to be totally honest. Again, everybody's sort of forgotten him at super bantamweight. He's managed to stay at the weight the whole time he's been out the ring. He hasn't put on any pounds. He's been in that gym the whole time. He's an absolute gym rat. So he will be back in the picture very soon, and I cannot wait for it. We're now going to go over to the Copper Box Arena, the top of the bill. Ryan Walsh, he faces James Tennyson. Ryan Walsh, of course, defending his British featherweight title. Ryan Walsh, 20 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw. James Tennyson, 16 wins and 1 loss. Also on that card, fighting for the vacant WBO International Heavyweight title, Hughie Fury. His record at the moment, 19-0. He faces Fred Cassie, who has a record of 18 wins, 4 losses and 1 draw. Again, cannot wait for the big man to get out again and rack up another win. A lot of people are saying this is going to be a tough fight for Hughie Fury, but we've yet to see him really lose a round, to be totally honest, in his pro career. He's barely lost a round, even when he was fighting that unusual illness that he had for a while. Also on that bill, Anthony Nelson defends his Commonwealth super flyweight title. Anthony Nelson, 11-0. He faces 15-0 Jamie Conlon. Moving down this stacked card once again, Liam Walsh, he gets out again, 19-0. He faces Troy James, who has a record of 18-2 with the one draw. Liam Walsh defends his British super featherweight title. Also, Lewis Petit, he gets out again. His record now 18-2. He faces Tibor Nadori, who has a record of 7 wins, 4 losses and 1 draw. Also on the bill, Anthony Yard, 5-0. He looks to move to 6-0. Again, a massive prospect that we all have to keep our eye on. He looks absolutely phenomenal in the gym. And of course, the Bollywood star Vijender Singh, he looks to move to 5-0. It's good to see the Indian star out once again. Also, freakishly tall Boy Jones Jr., the super featherweight, he gets out again. He looks to move to 8-0. He's also got the one draw on his record, but he's out again. This is a card that really has a lot of fights on it, a lot of prospects coming up, all involved in this one. So it's good to see them all get out again. That's it for the UK, though. We're now going to go over to the StubHub Centre, Carson, California. Of course, the place where Kell Brook won his world title. What a night that was. Top of the bill, Andre Berto, he faces Victor Ortiz. This is the second time these guys have fought. Andre Berto, 30 wins, 4 losses. Of course, we see him lose most recently to Floyd Mayweather. Victor Ortiz, 31 wins, 5 losses and 2 draws. These guys pretty much both past their prime, Ayaz, but it should make a decent scrap while it lasts anyway, right?
It's going to be a scrap, Ortiz v Berto.
Yeah, it will be a little scrap. It will be a little scrap. Of course, when they fought each other last time, Victor Ortiz picked up the unanimous decision win after 12 rounds. That was back in 2011. I think that Ortiz has looked really bad since that fight, to be honest. And this time, I think Andre Berto will probably win that fight if I had to pick a winner. Also on that bill, Edwin Rodriguez, he gets out again, boasting a record of 28 wins and the one loss. The one loss, obviously, to Andre Ward. He fights Thomas Williams Jr., who has a record of 19 wins and 1 loss. This is a good fight. This could steal the show, this one. Also on the bill, we've seen him recently challenge for Lee Selby's IBF featherweight title, Fernando Montiel. A former world champion in his own right. He has a record of 54 wins, 5 losses and 2 draws. He faces Jorge Lara, who has a record of 27 wins, 0 losses and 2 draws. And also on this bill, a very, very stacked bill, this one, I must say. Undefeated heavyweight Gerald Washington, who has a record of 16 wins, 0 losses and 1 draw. He faces Eddie Chambers. Eddie Chambers having a record of 42 wins and 4 losses. Of course, if you listened earlier, you'll know that me and Eddie are really good friends. He spoke a lot about this fight, so I don't really need to say too much. It is literally a make or break fight for Eddie Chambers. I really hope he can do it. We're pulling for him here, of course. Moving over now to another massive card that's taking place in America on Saturday. Top of the bill, Badou Jack. He puts his WBC World Super Middleweight title on the line against Lucian Bute. Now, Badou Jack, who has a record of 20 wins, 1 loss and 1 draw, he faces, of course, Lucian Bute, 32-3. This is going to be a really tough test, Ayaz. One that I think that Badou Jack will be able to come through, but Lucian Bute, although he's past his best in my opinion, he's still an experienced fighter. We saw that, he showed signs of experience and some smart boxing when he was facing James DeGale. So I think that he'll probably put in a good performance against Badou Jack. But I wouldn't be surprised if Lucian Bute got the win here. I think Badou Jack, he hasn't really fought top opposition, although he's a world champion in his own right, and we're big fans of Badou Jack on this show. But Lucian Bute is still a crafty veteran, Ayaz.
Lucian Bute, like you said, he's a very crafty veteran. He's also a very good fighter, because in his last fight, we saw him fight DeGale, and DeGale obviously beat him on points. And obviously, we know about Bute's history. He's fought Carl Froch, Carl Froch absolutely annihilated him. But this fight, if Badou Jack wins, and obviously James DeGale beats Medina, there's going to be a unification fight. And also, Eddie Hearn said that him and Callum Smith will be at the fight ringside, as Callum Smith is mandatory for the WBC Super Middleweight belt.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. 2 fights I'd like to see. I'd like to see the winner face James DeGale. Well, the winner of James DeGale and Medina. We haven't actually talked about that fight yet, but of course I'd like to see the winner face the winner. But I'd also like to see Callum Smith get his shot. So we're going to move down the bill. We just basically mentioned it. It's pretty obvious what the fight is. James DeGale defends his IBF World Super Middleweight title against Rogelio Medina. James DeGale 22-1, Medina 36-6. Again, I think that James DeGale is probably going to win this fight pretty easy. I think possibly by knockout. I think he'll look really good out there. He likes fighting in America. He seems to not really be bothered too much where he fights, but he seems to be, very, very good on the road. The travelling doesn't seem to affect him or take its toll on him come fight night at all. I know he went over there pretty early. He's adjusted to the time zone, and I'm sure he'll be on his game as always. Ayaz, what do you think about that fight, James DeGale Medina?
Medina is a Mexican tough fighter, but I reckon, from my opinion, I reckon DeGale will stop him.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I have to agree. Okay, that's the end of the previewing on this week's show. We're now going to welcome our second guest. Okay, now it's time for guest number 2, a real busy bee this week. Of course, it's world champion trainer Peter Fury. Peter, welcome to the show.
Yeah, very nice of you to have me on. How are you?
Yeah, very good, very good. I just wanted to get your reaction to yesterday's and today's press conferences, firstly.
I think you're always going to struggle to make something lively when more or less a lot's been said only 24 hours before. There's not much you really can say any different. The only thing you can say about Germany today was the venue was beautiful. It was staged magnificently. RTL, who were the broadcasters in Germany, they've done a fabulous job of the event. They made it spectacular. Best of food laid on. It was first class. They went to town on it and done a real nice job of it all. But as far as the press conference goes, yeah, there was a few questions, and I wouldn't say nowhere near as exciting as a press conference in Manchester. Pretty low key, and that's the way it went. And Vladimir said exactly the same as what he said the previous day. He mentioned about homosexuality and said Tyson Fury can basically F off. Exactly the same as what he said the day before.
Yeah, I did actually see the stage. I saw that the press conference actually took place in a boxing ring, which is something new. Yeah,
it was a nice big white boxing ring. So it was, like I said, I was very impressed with the setup. It was very, very nice from RTL.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about Hughie. Of course, Hughie's fighting in 2 days' time on the 30th. He's fighting Fred Cassie, experienced guy. Why did you choose this opponent? Is this someone that ideally you wanted, or did you want someone perhaps a little bit more on that world stage? But I know that everybody pulls out fights with Hughie. No one wants to fight him, to be totally honest. Why Fred Cassie?
To be honest, he just came up because we was offered him, and it's very difficult to get Hughie fights, as you just rightly said. So I looked at his record. He's a decent opponent, and the WBO was happy with him, so we accepted him. So that's the start and the end of it, really. No particular reason. What I like about Fred Cassie, he's durable, and he gives very awkward angles. He's awkward. He's very unorthodox in the things he does, and he'll present you with some problems. You'll have to work it out, and it's another string to his bow, if you like, to get good rounds in. And being able to work these fighters out, which, Fred Cassie, he's a typical gatekeeper, isn't he? That's all you can say about him. But dangerous and effective. And the same with Dominic Gwynn. If you're not on a world level yourself, these guys will expose you. So they're good fights for him. And they're not guys to fall over. They're guys that's going to fight back, and they ain't coming to lose. They're coming to win.
Now, a little bit earlier on in the show, this show's only got 2 guests on. Earlier, we had Eddie Chambers. Now we've got yourself on. He's, of course, fighting on the same night, a few hours later, obviously, in America. Do you know much about his fight? I know, like you say, you've got a lot going on at the minute, but do you know much about his opponent, Gerald Washington, at all?
Yeah, I've had quite a few conversations with Eddie. He's a very close friend of ours. We keep in touch regular. We're rooting for him over here. I'm sure he'll get the job done. He's not, if I had to pick on opponent level, he's a good boxer, Gerald Washington. He's a good mover, hits punches straight. I'd have to say, he's decent. So it's a good fight for Eddie, but I think Eddie can overcome it. I think Eddie's just got too much arsenal. He's an excellent boxer. He's found his rhythm now. He's got his proper strength, his conditioning right. And I don't see any reason why Eddie can't move on to bigger things from this fight. And certainly put him back in the mix anyway.
Yeah, we hope so. I just wanted to touch on literally touch on April the 9th. We saw Martin come over here, face Joshua. Joshua wiped him out in 2 rounds. What did you think of that fight, looking back on it now, Peter?
What I think of it, it was a brilliant performance from AJ, but very, very poor from Charles Martin. How can you walk into somebody like AJ with your eyes shut and walk onto his fist? He didn't do any more than that, did he? So, what can I say about it? He certainly didn't present any much of a task. I don't know what he was doing, to be honest. He was wide open. So he walked in in a straight line, and he got banged out, as what AJ rightly did. So what can you say about it?
And of course, this week it's been announced that Joshua will face Dominic Brazil in his first defence. What's your thoughts on that? I know that you put a tweet out saying it was a good fight. I'm not sure if you were 100% serious on that. What's your views on that fight?
Look, I don't see. I see Joshua as a still learning progress. Although he's a world champion. Look, there's lots of belts flying around. Look how it's been vacated. Tyson's the one who's really won it. So it's as far as we're concerned, it did get robbed of him. So he's a world champion, but he's not a proper world champion in my eyes. He's still learning. That's not because he's not the real deal or anything. He's doing everything right. He's not put a foot wrong. But what I'm saying is he's had 15, 16 fights or something. So he's still a learning progress. So when I said he's a good opponent, he is. People get excited. Oh, he's a world champion. He needs to fight this. He needs to fight that. He's got just as good a record as Joshua. He's the same size. He can bang like him, and he's got a bit of boxing ability. He's not going anywhere. He's not this world magnificent opponent, but he's good. He's equally as good as whatever he's faced. And so what's wrong with it? It's a good fight, and any guy with 15, 16 knockouts, he can punch. They can always land that lucky shot. Although I don't think so. I think AJ will do similar as what he done with Martin, but it's still a good opponent for him.
Now, of course, Box Nation, they were the ones who picked up the Fury Klitschko this time round, of course it's called. They've also picked up another heavyweight clash, another one that I'm sure Tyson will have his eye on, Wilder against Povetkin. I wanted to get your thoughts on that fight, Peter. It's a pretty strange one. No one thought it was actually going to take place in Russia, but it seems like it's going to be. What do you think about that fight?
I think it's a good fight. Stepping back and looking at it, when I seen him box... he boxed Nikolai further and he went to 10 rounds and he struggled. And then he boxed smaller guys and he gets them out of there. And I'm looking what he does against big guys. I think he's tailor-made for Wilder. You can only see what Vladimir done to him. He completely bulled him all over the place. So the size difference, it looked phenomenal. And it looked like that when he was fighting. So Wilder's a devastating puncher and he's getting better all the time. So I definitely pick Wilder and probably by knockout.
Okay, fair point. Now, you've had a few, in the previous history, we've seen a lot of stuff said between one thing said from you, another thing said from Eddie Hearn. This week, Eddie Hearn has claimed in an interview that along with yourself, you're already in talks of making Fury Joshua later this year. Can you confirm or deny that at all, Peter?
Yeah, I spoke to Eddie and... we said this is a massive fight, and we believe it is. The British public, but we've got 2 world champions. Whatever anybody thinks about it, there's 2 world champions from these shores, and if that fight makes sense and the public want to see that fight, then that's a fight that can be made. But we did speak about it, and Eddie said he was very interested in it. So that's where we are. But make no mistake, our serious thoughts, our ultimate dedication is on Vladimir Klitschko because he's a serious threat and he is a linear champion and by no means he's coming to lie down. He is coming for his belts back and he's the most serious danger out there amongst all of the names you've mentioned.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Could you, because I know that you said yesterday that Huey would be fighting on the undercard of Fury Klitschko. He was supposed to fight on the undercard in Germany. I just wanted to basically ask yourself if that was 100% definite and who will be providing the rest of that undercard. Obviously, Frank Warren with Box Nation had put the money up to host the fight. Will it be Box Nation fighters on the undercard or?
Yes, I'm not sure about Box Nation undercard. I think we're looking to put 1 or 2 of their undercard on. We're having a look at it. The undercard's being decided at the moment. So we're looking to put some lively fights on there. So hopefully we can do. I know we're looking at putting a world title undercard on there. So it'll be good for the fans to get a good undercard. I've certainly asked for it. So let's see what happens. And the way things are going, I think it's looking highly likely for a good undercard. So Yui will be on that show. And all being well, on the 30th, he will probably be back out on the 4th of June in Liverpool as well. So Yui's we're looking to keep Yui very busy.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Now, the last question I've got for you, the last proper question I've got for you, everyone I ask what's going to happen in the rematch between Fury and Klitschko, everybody says it's going to be pretty much the same thing as before. Do you think this fight's going to be pretty much the same as before?
No, I don't. I do see a stoppage in this fight. I think it's going to be a lot better. Both men know each other's styles. They're not going into new territory. They've both got the new strategies to work on. And I see a lot more punches letting fly this time. So I can see a stoppage in it. I don't see it going to 12 rounds. I know Vladimir will be doing his utmost to bring them titles back. You know, he was saying yesterday, I made a big mistake and that won't be happening again. So he's got a steely conviction about him. So this is a serious test. It could even be more of a serious test than the first time because this is a genuine fight. It's not one-way traffic like people's assessing. You know, for Tyson to win this fight, he's going to have to train out of his skin, total dedication, lockdown, focus, and double focus again. And ultimately, a 100% Tyson is too much for any heavyweight in the world, and that's why I'm abroad here now, looking to achieve that. And that's why we're in camp now, working on the strategies.
Now, before I let you go, Peter, is there anything else you wanted to say at all before I let you go?
We just hope the fans enjoy the fights. I think it's nice for the boxing public to start seeing a good few fights and fights getting made. It's shaking up and the fight job's looking very interesting. There's a lot of fighters fighting, a lot of bums out there. But, you know, let's face it, there is some good fights as well coming off. Amir Khan versus Alvarez is a top fight. You know, full credit to Amir Khan. Wish him all very best from us, and we're going to be up watching it live, cheering him on from Holland in the training camp. And what else? There's some very good fights happening, and that's about it, really. I hope the fans enjoy it and sit back and enjoy the ride, and let's see what the short future holds.
Absolutely. Listen, Peter, thank you for giving us a bit of time this week. Of course, I wish you the best of luck with Huey on the 30th and the best of luck when the Tyson fight comes around. I'm sure we'll speak to you closer to that date anyway. But until then, thank you very much, Peter, for giving us a bit of time.
Thank you very much. You're more than welcome.
Okay, now it's time to conclude episode 30 of the BoxHard Podcast. Thank you very much for listening this far once again. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Ayaz Sumra has been Ayaz Sumra. A big thank you to our two guests, Eddie Chambers and Peter Fury. We'll be back next week with another big show, as always. Until then, take care.